So do you follow any methodologies also as you are a team lead?
Yeah, we follow this agile methodology where we analyze the ticket. Whenever a requirement comes, right, we analyze it. First, we create a spike ticket or a task which can be which where the developer can analyze it. I sit with the developer, and then we decide if it is possible. If it is possible, what is the best way we can achieve it, and how much time would required. Based on the analysis, we go for a story creation. After creating story, based on it, we give a timeline for the end user, so that he within that we complete our testing and move to production. Till that state, we give the timeline, and then once everything is fine in test environment, we ask the end user to test as well in the test environment, and then after the confirmation of the end user, we move to production. For deployment part, I think we carry forward only from dev to stage, that is test environment. Afterwards, we have a specified DevOps team who will be carrying out this deployment process.
Okay, and what tools you use for deployment?
We use GitHub and Copado.
Okay, so in GitHub, what are the procedures or the steps we have for deployment?
Yeah, initially we pull the code because there might be multiple developers who might have been pushing their code, right? So initially we pull the code so that it is up to date. Then I commit my changes. With a specified commit message to know that what am I committing, and then I add it. We use git add command. Then we push the code to next environment using git push. Then we create a pull request. Once we have specified team who can approve that, and once they approve, we'll move to test using Copado, using user stories.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to LWC. So can you tell me some best practices to when we used to work on LWC component? Some points which we used to consider while writing our LWC code?
Yeah. First is we have to divide LWC for using the components. So we have to divide the logic so that it can be used multiple times, and we don't need to write a different. For example, if we want to write a code to display toast message or something, we can write it in a separate component and reuse it again. That is, and then we use Salesforce Lightning design systems here for CSS purpose, where we have inbuilt CSS. We can use those for designing purpose. Then we can use lazy loading, so that whenever the component is required only, we can render the component, not every time. We don't need to call all the data at once. Whenever required only, then we can call the component. And then we use the Salesforce locker service for the security purpose, to avoid this cross-site scripting or any vulnerabilities. We can use Salesforce Lightning secure locker service.
And can you tell me what does this mean, rendering of component? What does this statement?
We can every time there's no need of calling we don't need to fetch all the data at once. Whenever required only, we can pull the data from the component.
Can you tell me about the lifecycle hooks in LWC?
Yeah, in LWC we have 5 lifecycle, which comes when the component during the component lifecycle. First, initially is the constructor. A constructor is called when the DOM is when a component is created. Next comes the connected callback. This is invoked when there is a insertion of component. Then we have the disconnected callback. This is invoked when we remove a component from the DOM. Then we have the render callback. This is called when any rendering of the rendering happens in the component DOM, we call a render callback. Then we have the error callback. This is used if any is displayed the component, we use error callback function.
Okay, so this render callback is called whenever the rendering happens in the component. Okay. So what does this rendering in the component? How we can explain this?
Like consider there is a child and a parent and a child. When you're calling from parent to child, whenever a call is happening or any
Okay.
Method or function is called, right?
Okay, let's suppose there is a button on component, right? Now on click of this button, it will going to show me the data. So at this time, will my component renders or will the render callback called here?
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever
it will be called.
Yeah. So whenever it will going to pull any data or it will going to call the JavaScript functions. In such cases, it will always going to renders, and every time it will going to call render callback. So that is why render callback is called multiple times. Okay.
If any
Yes, please.
basically if any action is performed on the JavaScript, render callback is called.
Yes.
A shadow DOM is a DOM inside a DOM. It has some limitations. Whenever it follows some boundary limitations, anything inside the styling or something which will not be going outside of the DOM. It will be inside the DOM itself.
Okay. Any example?
I have not worked on shadow DOMs. I know only the basic.
No worries. Okay. So here in this, when we want to pass data from child to parent, we used to use the custom events, right? So in this custom event, what types of data we can pass, or what type of data parameters we can pass?
We can call the name, like parameters like name, any fields which is described, right? We can call the fields, right?
So like suppose I want to pass account record, so can I be able to?
The whole record.
Yes, the complete account record or a list of record. Can I be able to pass it?
Yeah, we can pass it.
Okay, tell me about the decorators.
Yeah, we have three main decorators. One is API decorator, wire decorator, and track decorator. API decorators is used to expose a component. Whenever a component is available, when we call out the component, right, we use API decorator. When coming to wire decorator, it is like to fetch the Salesforce data or metadata without any Apex controller, we use wire decorators. And track decorator is it is a private reactive decorator which is used to make the component property reactive.
In how many ways we can call our Apex method in LWC?
We can call in two methods. One is using a wire adapter, or using an imperative call. First is wire adapter. We can only fetch if any simple logic like fetching the data and displaying. It is only used for fetching data. If any logic changes or any manipulation of data is done, we can go with imperative call.
Okay. And what about the LDS?
Lightning LDS is used for it is top of the Salesforce UI. These are used to perform any update or any modifications or to manipulate the Salesforce data. We use this. There are three types of Lightning design system. One is record view form, record edit form, and record form. Record view form, we can only view the data. When it comes to record edit form, we can even insert or update the data. And form is used to both to view and edit.
Okay. Okay, what are the best practices to write a trigger?
We have to use only single trigger for an object, and we should not have the hard code values, and we should bulkify the data, and we should not use software and DML statements inside the for loop.
So it is recommended to write one trigger per object. So why so?
If we write two triggers, right, whenever any logic is called or whenever any insertion or updation is happening, if it the next trigger, there might be a recursion happening in the trigger. That can be avoided if we write only single trigger.
Okay.
And maybe we can use the trigger handler class instead of writing the whole logic in the trigger itself.
Okay, and in these triggers, have you ever faced read-only error?
Read-only error. If the field is not having access, if it is running, if we don't have access, the user don't have the access to the to trigger it, we might face this error.
Okay.
Field level access or record level access is not there.
Okay, so in after triggers, when you try to perform DMLs on that trigger.new or new map, so have you ever faced any such error that you cannot insert update because the data is
whenever on the same object, if we are performing the trigger, right, after insert cannot be used, only before insert can be used, because it will become read only.
Okay. What is the difference between trigger.new and new map?
Trigger.new gives us the list of the records which are newly inserted or updated newly, and new map is which has the mapping to the ID. It will have the mapping to, we use this while updating it, so that particular record will have the consisting data mapping to it.
Okay, so in before triggers, why we not do the or perform the DMLs? Why we get the errors when we perform DMLs there?
Perform DML
Yes,
on before
yeah.
triggers.
Yeah, why we?
Yeah, before triggers, we will not, the data would not be inserted or it will not be updated before, right? So we will not have the existing data, which is new data. So that is why we cannot perform the DML.
Okay. So in case, like suppose I have data records in the recycle bin, okay, and now I want to
Okay.
avoid that user should not be able to undelete them, okay. So which trigger we will going to write here? What are the events?
I think after delete we can write.
Okay, after delete will fire when we will going to delete data, right?
Yeah.
But data
Correct.
is already in the recycle bin. And now if user try to undelete this data at this time
Before undelete.
before
Undelete.
Do we have before undelete?
I don't think so. Only after undelete I have heard. I actually have not used the undelete till now because we have the option of hard delete, right? So that permanently data would be deleted.
So in triggers, we are not having before undelete, only after undelete is there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the event will be here after undelete.
Okay.
And at this time when user will going to try to undelete them, we can show the errors.
Okay.
Okay.